The Eala Gambit, the secret contract that changed women's tennis. The tennis world stood still, caught in the silent seismic shock of a secret agreement no one saw coming. Alex Eala, the Philippines' wunderkind, the rising star with a smile that could disarm sponsors and a forehand that could dismantle champions, had just signed the most controversial brand deal in the sport's modern history. This wasn't merely about money or a logo on a sleeve. It was a story of loyalty and betrayal, of ambition and exploitation, and a single choice that would cleave the world of women's tennis in two. What she did next changed everything. The rise of a prodigy. Alex Eala wasn't supposed to be here. Not in the rarefied air of the WTA Tour, where legacies are forged and fortunes are made. Born in Manila, she was forged on courts that the sports elite would never set foot on. Her talent a brilliant flower blooming from the hard concrete of Southeast Asian tennis. Her ascent was the stuff of legend. She climbed from the shadows, a relative unknown, into the blinding spotlight, leaving a trail of vanquished opponents in her wake. By 17, the U.S. Open Junior Trophy was hers. By 19, she was a recurring nightmare for players with twice her age and experience, breaking into the top rankings with a ferocity that felt both inevitable and startling. The Philippines, a nation yearning for a tennis hero, had found its champion, and the world, always hungry for a new narrative, began to pay attention. With that attention came a deluge of opportunity, and with opportunity, an unbearable pressure. The titans of industry began to circle. Nike, Adidas, Wilson, Yonex, every corporation with a stake in athletic greatness wanted a piece of the Alex Eala story. Here was a young, beautiful, prodigiously talented athlete from a vast, untapped market. She was the perfect ambassador, the perfect face, the perfect return on investment. Her management team fielded offers daily, each more lucrative than the last. Endorsement deals worth hundreds of thousands, appearance fees, partnerships with luxury brands, tech firms, and wellness platforms. Everyone wanted Alex Eala. She had a universe of choices, a galaxy of paths that most players her age could only dream of. She could have played it safe, signed with a global giant, and followed the well-trodden path of every rising star before her, but Alex Eala didn't follow paths. She made them. The deafening silence. For months, the tennis world buzzed with whispers. Insiders spoke in hushed tones of clandestine meetings and negotiations held behind tightly sealed doors. A curious silence fell over Eala's social media. No new logos graced her apparel. No celebratory announcements or press releases materialized. In an era where athletes are walking billboards, plastering sponsors across every Instagram story and tweet, Eala's quiet was deafening. It was strange. It was unnatural. Fans speculated wildly. Journalists posed questions that were met with polite deflections. Her team remained a fortress of no comment. Then, on a cold morning in late January, the fortress crumbled. A document, materialized in the murky depths of the internet, posted anonymously on a tennis forum frequented only by the most obsessive fans. At first, it was a single blurry screenshot. Within hours, it was a wildfire. Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, the document, now verified and spreading with viral ferocity, was a contract, and it bore Alex Eala's name. The brand was not Nike, not Adidas. It was a name that drew a collective, confused who from. The global tennis community, Apex Edge. A relatively unknown activewear startup based in Singapore, Apex Edge had been quietly cultivating a reputation in Southeast Asia, but had zero footprint in the global market. They had never signed an athlete of Eala's caliber. Until that moment, they were a ghost. But it wasn't the obscurity of the brand that sent shockwaves through the industry. It was the terms of the deal. What could possibly be in a contract that would make the entire tennis world stop and stare in unified disbelief? The devil in the details. The leaked pages confirmed the worst fears and then invented new ones. At first, the consensus was that it must be a hoax, a sophisticated prank. But as more pages surfaced, their legitimacy was confirmed by a former Apex Edge employee and corroborated by a Filipino sports journalist. From Eala's camp came only silence, which in the court of public opinion is an admission of guilt. The contract was a relic, a predatory document that seemed plucked from a bygone era before player unions and legal safeguards. Standard endorsement. Deals are transactional. Wear the gear, post on social media, show up at events, get paid. This contract was transformational. and not in Eala's favor. First, the exclusivity term. It was absolute. Eala was forbidden from wearing, promoting, or even being incidentally photographed with a competitor's product. Not just on the court, but everywhere. A casual stroll in the wrong pair of sneakers captured by paparazzi could trigger steep financial penalties, tens of thousands of dollars for a single infraction. Then came the content clause. Apex Edge demanded and received total approval rights over all of Eala's social media. Every post, story, or tweet related to tennis, fitness, wellness, or lifestyle had to be submitted for review. The brand could demand edits, force removals, and mandate specific content on their schedule. Her voice was no longer her own. It was a marketing channel to be programmed and controlled. But the clause that truly set the internet ablaze was buried on page 7, a brutal performance metric. If Eala failed to reach specific ranking milestones, failed to win a WTA title within 18 months, or if her social media engagement dipped below a certain threshold, the contract could be terminated. In that event, she would owe back a significant portion of her signing bonus, a figure rumored to be close to $500,000. It wasn't a partnership, it was a high-stakes gamble where she shouldered all the risk. The backlash was instantaneous and brutal. Former players decried it as exploitative, agents labeled it predatory. Fans, who had once adored her, called it a betrayal. Hashtags like #FreeAlex and #ApexPredator trended globally. How could Alex Eala, a player of such immense promise, sign away her autonomy? Was she desperate? Was her team incompetent? Or was she simply naive? The conspiracy theorists whispered of a larger game at play, but no one knew the truth. The system. Unveiled within 48 hours, sponsors began to flee. A planned collaboration with a wellness company was abruptly canceled. A racket manufacturer rescinded its trial offer. Alex Eala had become toxic. The WTA, the governing body of women's tennis, released a carefully worded statement on the importance of player welfare and independent legal counsel. It mentioned no names, but the message was a clear shot across the bow. The media frenzy intensified. Investigative journalists began digging into Apex Edge and discovered it was backed by a private equity firm with a history of aggressive litigation and contentious dealings with athletes. Their strategy became clear when a podcast host critical of the deal was slapped with a cease and desist letter. This wasn't just a brand, it was a machine designed to silence dissent. The true bombshell, however, was discovered by a sports attorney during a live-streamed review of the contract. Buried in dense legalese was a clause titled Image Rights and Likeness Control. Apex Edge didn't just have the right to use Eala's image. For the duration of the contract, they owned it. They had exclusive, irrevocable control over how her likeness could be used, sold, or licensed. She had, in effect, sold the rights to her own face. To make matters worse, a non-compete extension would bar her from signing with a direct competitor for 2 years after the contract expired. It was a career straitjacket. The final, chilling discovery was a clause on dispute resolution. Any disagreement would be settled not in court, but through private arbitration, with an arbitrator chosen by Apex Edge. There would be no public trial, no media scrutiny, no legal recourse. It was a perfectly constructed trap. The world stopped blaming the 19-year-old and started blaming the system that allowed such a trap to be set. The Confession 14. Agonizing days after the leak, Alex Eala finally spoke. She posted an 11-minute video to her YouTube channel. No edits, no script, no marketing team. It was just her, sitting in a stark hotel room, looking into the camera, and by extension, into the eyes of the world. She began with an apology, not for the contract, but for the silence. She needed time, she explained, to process the storm. She had unleashed. She confirmed everything. The contract was real. She had signed it. And yes, she knew what she was doing. Then she laid her heart bare. With raw vulnerability, she spoke of her family, of growing up in the Philippines where tennis was a luxury, of the immense sacrifices her parents made to fund her dream. She spoke of the crushing weight of guilt and the relentless pressure to succeed, not for herself, but for them. When Apex Edge approached her, they didn't just offer money, they offered a narrative she desperately wanted to believe. They spoke of partnership, of building something together. They saw her, they said, as more than a billboard. They promised investment, support, and a signing bonus that would finally allow her to repay her parents and give them the security they had sacrificed for her. They spoke her language, understood her culture, and made her feel seen in a way the monolithic Western brands never had. "I know people think I made a mistake," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "Maybe I did, but it was my mistake to make. I'm 19 years old and I'm learning. I'm not a business expert. I'm a tennis player doing the best I can with the information I have. If this deal doesn't work out, I'll learn from it. But I won't apologize for trying to take care of my family." The video ended. The response was a tidal wave of empathy. The narrative shifted overnight. Critics became defenders, but some remained unconvinced, arguing that her emotional appeal was a masterful deflection, perhaps even a strategy orchestrated by Apex Edge itself. Regardless, Alex Eala had seized control of her own story. A legacy in the balance months have passed. The media frenzy has subsided. Apex Edge has launched a massive marketing campaign with Eala at its center, and their revenues have skyrocketed. The WTA, jolted into action, now offers financial literacy workshops to young players, agents, and brands tread more carefully, knowing the next leak could be their own. As for Alex Eala, she is still on the court. Her ranking fluctuates, but she remains a formidable presence in the top 100. The WTA title remains elusive. The pressure is immense. Every loss is scrutinized, every win a vindication. She has not backed down or criticized her partner. She is committed. Her story has become a defining chapter in the ongoing saga of modern sports. Some see her as a cautionary tale, a brilliant talent ensnared by corporate opportunism. Others see her as a quiet revolutionary, a trailblazer willing to risk everything to forge her own path, even if it leads through fire. Perhaps the most important part of her story is not the contract, but the conversation it ignited about athlete autonomy, corporate responsibility, and the ethical fault lines that run beneath the manicured lawns of professional tennis. For every Alex Eala in the spotlight, there are countless young athletes in the shadows facing similar choices. If her journey helps even one of them ask better questions or demand better terms, then perhaps the price was worth it. The question is no longer whether Alex Eala made the right choice. The question is what happens next. This is no longer just about tennis. This is about business, power, and the future of athlete empowerment. Alex Eala took a gamble of historic proportions. Time alone will tell if it pays off. The world is watching.